What it do, bruh? Talk of the town, Nintendo, Doc Trey, still holding it down, still make the best games, and you know this, bro. It's the truth. If you don't like it, you can have that seat though.
Now, this topic right here is very interesting because as gamers, we all care about graphics. We all do. Even Nintendo-only players care about graphics. And you can pretend like you don't, but you do. Graphics may not be the most important thing to you when it comes to a game, but don't kid yourself, you care about graphics. I mean, if Nintendo would come out and announce that the Switch 2 was more powerful than the PlayStation 5, you'd be running in the streets and rubbing in everyone's noses and faces like there's no tomorrow. This is a fact, and that's okay. But the thing that's crazy about graphics and the chase for photorealism is that I think eventually that chase for photorealism could result in another game market crash, because we are very visual creatures, right? So we're attracted to good looking games, right? And with a lot of these games that come out, the first thing that's going to catch your attention, for the most part, will be the visuals. So if the game has outstanding looking visuals, it's going to catch your attention. But the problem is, a lot of this focus is on the visuals and not necessarily the gameplay. So when we get to the point in time where these systems are so powerful that photorealism is the norm, what is going to separate these other games from each other if they look damn near identical, because they're all going for photorealism? So even on game systems like the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series, when there's a really good looking game, it stands out. But what happens when all of these games look like that? What happens when we get to the point where these systems are so powerful that nearly all games, regardless of team size or skill level, can achieve photorealistic visuals? So we love studios such as Naughty Dog Studios. We love their games, right? But one of the main attractions of their games is the presentation. People talk about the graphics, they talk about the story, not so much the gameplay. Not saying that the gameplay is bad, but when people are hyping up Naughty Dog games, they're usually not talking too much about the actual gameplay. With Naughty Dog, it's about the presentation and it's about the story. But we are almost in 2025. The PlayStation 5 came out in 2020. We have still yet to even get an original Naughty Dog game for the PlayStation 5 thus far. So what happens in the future if all of these developers are going after photorealism and these games all look pretty much identical and these games play identical? Was it just going to come down to the story that's going to keep us from to buy these individual titles? Like I said, even a studio like Naughty Dog is only able to come out with one or two of these types of games every generation. Add to the fact that once we get to these photorealistic games, they're going to take longer to develop. They're going to take more time to develop. And we're going to have less games available and a bunch of games that look and play the same. And then that's going to ask us, which of these games should we use our time to play? And if they all look alike and they all play alike, And a lot of these games are probably going to flop. And if they take as long to develop and as much money to develop as they're going to cost, and they don't sell, these studios are going to close. So what needs to happen is there needs to be more varied art styles with these upcoming games, regardless about how powerful these systems are. Because if all of these developers chase photorealism, 90% of these games are going to look identical visually, and 90% of these games are going to play the same. And that is not going to be good for the industry at all. Like, everything's just going to look like a whole bunch of copycats. And then once you get to that point where everything looks photorealistic, the shock value of having the game having good graphics is going to wear off. And then how are you going to expect people to buy these games when there's nothing really special about them? So that's why we need varied art styles coming up in these next generations. Because if we go the photorealistic route for everything, these games are going to lose their identity.